Welcome to my podcast, Unveiled with Maria Leggett. That's me, and I am going to discuss mediumship, tarot, and spirituality so we can start to unravel all the mysteries together, and you are more than welcome to ask questions anytime. Today we're going to talk about why I named the podcast Unveiled and my business, because my business is named Maria Leggett Unveiled. We're going to talk about why I'm doing this. We're going to discuss a little bit about me because I think it's helpful to know the background of the person that you're listening to. What are their credentials? Because let's face it, I could be just talking out my ass. And sometimes I actually feel that way, but I'm really not, I swear. So my birth name is Maria Leggett. And I have chosen to go by Shelly Leggett. It is a nickname. So all my friends call me Shelly. And most of my family call me Shelly too, to be fair and honest. And I, for lack of a better word, split myself into two because as a child, I was the victim of childhood sexual abuse. And because of that, it was easier for me when it was all over to say that Maria went through that. And so I kind of segregated myself, right? And at some point in my teenage years, I just proclaimed, in fact, I can tell you when I was 15 and I had moved in with my dad and I went to a new school. And so nobody really knew me. And for me, this was a chance for me to start over. And so when they called out my name at the beginning of school, I raised my hand and said, I go by Shelly, please call me Shelly. And that was my opportunity to forget everything. And that's exactly what I did. I left all those memories behind and changed who I was. And I lived my life as Shelly/Maria for many, many years. And, in the corporate world, I went by Maria because it became too difficult to explain to people. My name is Maria, but I go by Shelly, and then everybody wants to know, oh, where does Shelly come from? My middle name is Michelle. And so my name is Maria Michelle Leggett. And it just became too much of a pain to have to explain to everybody where the nickname came from, why I don't go by Maria. And I never told anybody why I didn't go by Maria, just that I didn't like it. I thought of a million excuses. The truth of the matter is that I didn't even realize I had segregated myself. So I let all the pain stay with Maria. At this point in my journey, I am 51 and I am happy to use the name Maria because I have worked through a lot of that trauma. And I got through all that trauma by finding my spiritual path. And so for me, these two things coalesced beautifully into this manifested truth. And so that's why I call this Maria Leggett Unveiled, my business, and why I call the podcast Unveiled, because I unveiled my 8-year-old self who was abused, my 9-year-old self, my 10-year-old self, and I pulled her out of that. And I let her be seen and I let her light shine. And so I have unveiled Maria. And because of that, I decided to name the podcast Unveiled as well, because we're going to unveil the mysteries that people seem to think surround spirituality. When I first started on this path years ago, it was really hard for me because there's not a whole lot out there or at least not that I could find, for the basics of spirituality, right? You know that there are protections, you know that there are prayers, you know that there's energy, you know the altars can be created. And the worst thing that I heard from somebody was, oh, just do whatever makes you happy. And I'm thinking, no. Like I had an OCD brain. I have to do what's right. I want to do the right things. And so I am choosing to do this podcast because I think that everybody should have access to free information. And you can determine whether or not you like my information. And I'm going to teach the exact same way that I was taught, which is I will share with you my experience and my knowledge. You keep what resonates with you and trash the rest. I'm never going to say to you that something you learn or something you like is wrong unless, and I don't even think that I would say wrong. What I would say is you're welcome to do that, but it's not something I would do. And that's my polite way of saying, I don't think that's appropriate because there's usually a reason for why. And I will always answer. Not everybody likes my answer, and that's part of the problem. I'm pretty truthful. People ask me things and I say, yeah, you can ask me anything. Just be prepared for the answer. And so obviously you're going to hear me stutter a lot through this. I'm very nervous creating this. I do a podcast with some friends of mine, but we bounce stuff off of each other. We laugh, and this is just me. And so I'm sitting here, my throat is starting to close up, and oh my God, throat chakra issues, right? Oh my goodness. It's unbelievable to me that after all these years, I still, even with all the work that I've done, I still struggle with saying my truth, right? I still struggle with putting good information out there and being, I don't struggle with putting good information out there. That's not true. What I struggle with is putting myself out there and being in the spotlight. And the fact that I'm naming the podcast after myself, and it's hard for me. Some people are going to look at that and go, oh, how egotistical is she? And the thing is, that couldn't be further from the truth. I do it because it's my way of no longer shying from my truth. I am no longer embarrassed to be Maria Leggett. I am no longer embarrassed or want to hide behind the veil of Shelley. And so we are letting all pieces of our personality. And no, I've not been diagnosed with personality disorder. I did have bipolar 2 disorder, though. And so we're going to discuss all of this, right? Because I think all of this is really pertinent to my path. It's pertinent to spirituality. When we, in my opinion, in my experience, when we deny ourselves the right, and I mean the right, to be who we are, we put ourselves behind a curtain, behind a veil, and we say, I'm too whatever, insert whatever word you want. I'm too ashamed. I'm too scared. I'm too embarrassed. I'm too something. And, I've been accused of being too everything in my lifetime. I've been accused of being too loud, of being too noisy, of being too happy, of being too just too much. And I'm tired of that. I don't want that anymore. I want people to recognize that who you are is who you are. And this is probably one of the most important things that I learned about doing women's circles, which is don't allow someone else's lie to become your truth. And that's all I knew growing up. Somebody else said, oh my God, Maria, you're too much. You talk too much. Just shut up. Go sit down. That children should be seen and not heard thing. And it's all a lesson. And clearly I signed up for that soul contract. I get it. But I'm not too much. I am exactly enough. I am exactly who I am supposed to be, when I am supposed to be, and where I am supposed to be. And so I think it's really important that I share my journey. And I was very clear with Spirit when I started doing all of this 4 or 5 years ago that I would always tell my story and I would always be honest, that so long as I was able to help one other person. And so when I genuinely ask for feedback, I mean it. I really want to hear from you. Did I impact you in a positive way? Did I impact you in a way that you didn't view positively? And so I need to know that so that I can see what's happening. And if I'm, upsetting a lot of people in the audience, then that means that I may need to adjust what I am doing. And it could also mean that things that I'm going to talk about are going to trigger something in you that you may not react so well to. And, that's what I do. Part of, as a circle leader, I bring up the truth and put it out there. And it's hard sometimes, hearing the truth because we don't necessarily want to hear it. At least I don't. So I'll just speak for me. I don't always want to hear the truth because sometimes it's ugly and I'd rather much hide behind a lie. The problem is the lie compounds itself and then that lie becomes part of our energy and it just blocks us. I have enough energetic blockages. Lying, I don't have time for it. So it's really important that I always tell the truth to the best of my ability. And so I will share and do as much as I can. I was born and raised in Dayton, Ohio, and I grew up a Buckeye, OH. And I hear an echo in my head, I-O. I am a huge Buckeye fan and, scarlet and gray all the way. And when I was, how old was I? 21. I moved from Ohio to New Jersey with my beautiful little 11-month-old daughter in tow. And I moved out there for a guy, no names mentioned. That was a husband, I'm just saying. I've been married 4 times, so let's just put that out there too. So I moved out there for a guy and wound up having 2 more children. I married him and things didn't work out, which that happens. And I met an absolutely wonderful man who loved me with 3 children, and we got married and we adopted 1 other baby. And I'm happy to say that that baby is 18 and will be going off to college in the fall, and we will be empty nesters. 4 children later and 31 years later, almost 32 years later, we will be empty nesters. My husband and I have been married for, we didn't get married until 2001, but we met in 1998, and that is what we use as our anniversary. So this year we will be together 23 beautiful years. And I say that giggling and laughing because all 23 years have not been beautiful. I think he makes a joke that in the first 7 years, my wedding ring spent more time in the air than it did on my finger, which that tells you some of the rage that I carried in my lifetime from my trauma. I would just get so mad at him and take it off and throw it through the air. It's all good, right? So anyway, so we've been together 23 years and life is really good now. I have worked through so much of my trauma and through so much of my stuff. And if it hadn't been for my spiritual path, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be at a point where I could sit here and do this podcast and put my information out there and put my story out there. But I am not the only person who has experienced something like this. And I know that I'm not. And so I really want to hear from you. You don't have to comment on the podcast, but I would love to get messages from you. If you're willing to share your story with me and say, hey, I didn't have the easiest upbringing either. And I consider myself, a survivor warrior. I really do. I don't consider myself just a survivor because I didn't just survive. I'm a fucking warrior. And I mean that from the tips of my toes all the way up to the top of my head. I am a fucking warrior. I have been through so much in my 51 years, and I am still here to smile and laugh and talk about it. And not that I'll always make fun of it, but, it is what it is. We have to get through it in our own way, right? So, yes, like I said before, I've been married 4 times. And I've been with my last husband, and I do say the last one because, dude, I am so not doing this again. I will be a free agent if anything should happen to this man. We've been together for 23 years, and I absolutely adore him. His name is Tyler. No, his last name is not Leggett. That is my maiden name. I didn't take his name. And he's just a great guy. I mean, he has his moments, right? He has his really bad moments. But you know what? We all have those. We all have our own junk to carry. We all have our own past, our own things. But I do want to give a huge shout out to my husband who's put up with me through an adoption, through post-adoption depression, through bipolar 2 disorder diagnosis and medications and the whole spiel. Like, he's never left my side. Never. And there's something to be said for that. So even on his worst days when we are arguing and I really just, some days would like to take a fork and throw it into his forehead. Not that I would ever really do that, mind you, but I think about it. And I have to remind myself just how much he loved me and put up with a lot. And so I will also go on record saying that the man completely spoils me because he makes my dinner every single night and he rubs my head every night so I can go to sleep. Again, I'm really not kidding. He truly does do that. And it would be my goal to one day get him on the podcast and talk to him. Not that he'd ever really do it, but I would like that. So anyway, again, let me go back to my why. Why am I doing this? I am doing this because I think everybody needs free access to information. And it's really hard to find sometimes. And so I want to try to name the episodes in a way that people will be able to say, that's what I'm looking for. And so, I am open to feedback. I want to hear, hey, this could have been titled better, or you could have described it better, anything, because I just want to be open to change. And I want to allow myself that openness because I haven't been open to change in the past. And that's part of my OCD. I want to change that. I react very badly to change initially. What do you mean? And, I don't want to do that anymore. So I really am open to feedback. It doesn't mean I'm going to take your advice, but I'm open to hearing it and I would really like to hear it. So please, I would love that. So one of the things that I want to do as part of this, right, is to start talking about spirituality. So I'll do an episode where it's what is spirituality. And I think that might be like my next podcast is, what is spirituality, and go through that. We're also going to be doing, and I'll say we all the time. And by we, I mean me and you, all the listeners. I don't consider this as a me podcast, right? To me, it's we. And when this podcast launches, it's going to be me and maybe 4 or 5 other people. And then I am telling you, at some point in time, I'm going to have thousands of listeners. And that's just not an option. I will have thousands of listeners. This is me manifesting. So here's your first lesson in manifestation. You don't say I want, you say I have, so that the universe will then fill in that gap. So that's your first lesson. Manifesting, you can say I want, you can ask, but if you really, really want it, you just state it as fact. So my podcast will have thousands of listeners and hundreds of thousands of downloads by all those thousands of listeners. And I am helping thousands and thousands of people. That's my declaration. So with that being said, I also plan on doing a weekly tarot card show. So those shows might be anywhere from 15 minutes to a half an hour. I don't know that I can actually get one card to go 30 minutes, but I will certainly try. And so we're going to literally, if you listen to my podcast for 78 weeks, you're going to get the entire tarot deck. So as long as you're patient, you will learn tarot from beginning to end completely. And I enjoy that. I actually teach a tarot class online already anyway. I teach mediumship. I am going to have a large program that's going to launch later this year, and I'm still in the middle of writing it. That's going to encompass shamanism, mediumship, women's circles. It's a beautiful, beautiful program that I'm writing that's being channeled to me through the gods, Shiva and Ganesha, which I'm amazed that I have the perception of male deities who are helping me to write this program that's specifically geared towards women, which I love. I mean, they're absolutely amazing, these two deities. And so I'm just thrilled to be able to do that. One of the other things we're going to have is on the podcast, we're going to have guest speakers where I will invite in people from different paths. So we'll have people from witchcraft, and I would love to find somebody who is an active druid and somebody who is any religion. I would love to have them all on here so that we can talk about them. not talk about them, but talk about their religion and talk about all the different paths. That's what I meant by them, the paths, so that we can go through, and discuss how this all works. I consider myself an omniist, and an omniist is one who believes there is truth in all religions. So I don't particularly care for the dogma of organized religion, any religion. I'm pretty eclectic in the way that I practice my spirituality, but I'm okay with it, right? I mean, one of my absolute favorite guides, anytime I do any kind of energy work, and I'm a Reiki master, so anytime I do energy work, I have a Reiki guide, and my Reiki guide is Jesus. And I love working with him, and he's absolutely wonderful. And then I have, Shiva and Ganesha who are helping me to write this program. And I work with Ra and Isis, and I work with, we have pantheons from all over, right? And so I don't think that I don't want to be pigeonholed into one pantheon, one way. I am open to all of them. And so one of these days I plan on going back to school and learning religion. I would love to get a degree in religion. Religion absolutely fascinates me. If you look across the world, across the globe, and you start to really delve down into all the different religions, and there are so many, there's no way I could educate myself on all of them, not without having any other time to do the rest of my life. When you look at that, there are a lot of commonalities amongst them, and you can usually reference one god or goddess in one pantheon to another one. And so to me, I think that the universe has done this amazing job of taking all of these different deities or energies or angels, whatever you want to call them, and giving them to each culture. And so, for me, you have like Mother Mary in Christianity, right? And then you have the Japanese with Kuan Yin, and you have Isis in Egypt, and you have, there's this mother deity in every single one. And so you can cross-reference them, right? And you're even talking about Orishas. So Orishas, you can cross-reference those with saints in the Catholic religion. And it's absolutely fascinating to me how all of that works. And so, some of the things that we'll be discussing in the podcast is some of the research that I'm going to do the cross references, right? To put it out there, because I just don't want to be pigeonholed into here's how I have to practice. I would rather rely on my intuition and let my intuition tell me this is what's right for you. This is what I want you to do right now. And what I do today in a prayer or in a spell isn't necessarily what I'm going to do tomorrow. If it was effective, I'll probably repeat it. Not such a bad thing. And I think that that's where we just need to learn to trust ourselves, right? We have allowed humanity to tell us what's right and what's wrong. And so many of us have, and I even did it for a long time in my own life where I was a sheep. I did what I was told because I was told if you don't do this, you're going to go to hell. And I think that's one of the reasons why I react so badly to organized religion now is what I was taught while I was growing up. And I was very uncomfortable with it. And so now I just want to be who I want to be and what I am comfortable with. And it is not a secret that I have been initiated into witchcraft. I've initiated into more than one into more than one coven. And I'm not embarrassed of that, but it doesn't mean that I do everything the same way that my coven does. And I have this amazing high priestess that I call Mama, my Lady Rhea, who I absolutely love and adore. She is the Witch Queen of New York, Rhea Rivera. And, she allows me the latitude to do what I want to do. When I'm with a coven and we're with the sisters and doing what we need to do, we absolutely do it in the coven way. And I respect that because that was a choice that I made. Outside of there, I can choose to do things differently, and she fully supports me in that, which I love. She is open to however you want to practice. But when you are in circle with sisters, you must do it the right way, and it's not even the right way. It's the way that they have found works fabulous within the coven. And so who am I? I'm not going to fight that. But I also don't want to lie and say that I'm not in a coven. I don't ever want to hide from anybody what I do or how I live my life, because I want to try to be as authentic and genuine as possible. So I don't want somebody to say, oh, she's out there preaching omnism, and I don't preach, by the way, but I teach a lot of things. And so I don't ever want it to be said that I speak only about omnism when, here she is, she's initiated into this. And so it's not the only thing that I do. And I think that that's important, is that we all be open and allow what is right for our lives. So it's really important to me that we encompass everyone, everything, every culture, every race, every gender, non-gender, binary, non-binary. It doesn't matter to me. I want to be open and love everyone, because I think that we all deserve to be accepted. We all deserve to be loved, and we all deserve to find our path, what makes us happy. And that's what I want to do with this podcast, is just to put information out there so that somebody may find, out of 10 episodes, if one of them you found 10 minutes of one episode out of 10 episodes was beneficial, then I've done my job, at least according to me. And so I'm just thrilled to be able to do this. And I am honored that you are choosing to listen to this at this moment in time, whether it's the morning, the afternoon, or the middle of the night because you're on third shift and you're taking your break. I just want you to know how much I appreciate you downloading this, listening to it, and supporting me on my journey, because I am here to support you on yours. Thank you for allowing me to be of service to you today. You can find our podcast on podbean.com.